U.S. President Donald Trump said on February 13 that Ukraine would be involved in peace talks with Russia. Ukraine would have a seat at the table during any peace negotiations with Russia over ending the war.
We would have Ukraine, we would have Russia, and we'll have other people involved too. A lot of people, a lot of forks in this game. I'll tell you what, this is a very interesting situation, but the Ukraine war has to end. The young people are being killed at levels that nobody's seen since World War II.
Concerning Trump's meditation, Russia's largest TV channel, Russia 24, named bilateral telephone call was a historic event and significant step on a way to Ukrainian conflict settlement.
И не менее долгожданный. В последний раз они говорили еще в июле 2020-го, когда нынешний 47-й президент США был еще президентом 45-м. Ну а 46-й Джо Байден, как и демократическая администрация в целом, все контакты фактически заморозила. И точно не по инициативе Москвы. Так что нынешняя беседа без преувеличения и пафоса. Событие историческое.
But Trump's unilateral overture to Putin on February 12, accompanied by apparent concessions on Ukraine's principal demands, raised alarm for both Kyiv and the European allies in NATO, who said they feared the White House might make a deal without them. Worldwide News reports.
As part of an agreement between the U.S. and Panama, 119 individuals from various countries were deported to Panama this week. Before being sent back to their home countries, the deportees will stay in a shelter near the Darien Gap, a jungle that many migrants pass through on their journey to the U.S. Panama's president also hinted at future repatriations after talks with U.S. officials.
A través de un programa de cooperación con el gobierno de Estados Unidos pedido por ellos, solicitados por ellos. Ayer llegó en un vuelo Fuerza Aérea de los Estados Unidos al aeropuerto de Howard, un vuelo con 119 personas de las nacionalidades más diversas del mundo. Esos vienen de Estados Unidos haciendo puente con Panamá. Esto lo organiza y paga la Organización Internacional de Migración, no el gobierno de la República de Panamá. Este es un aporte más que hace Panamá en el tema migratorio con el concurso de la ONG internacional.
The first flight, carrying people from countries like Afghanistan, China, India, Iran, Pakistan, and Vietnam, arrived on February 12. 2 more flights are expected soon, totaling 360 deportees. Worldwide News Report.
Google Maps changed the name of Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America for American users, according to a Google blog post published on February 10, after U.S. President Donald Trump signed a Gulf of America Day proclamation on February 9.
The first time in history flying over the recently renamed Gulf of America. Please enjoy the flight, and we are now about to head westbound to Super Bowl 59.
Wow, he did that well.
Concerning this affair, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum on February 13 demanded that Google reconsider its decision to rename the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America for U.S. users.
Entonces Google está equivocado. Entonces contestaron y le regresó la carta el canciller diciendo que no, que están equivocados, que no se puede llamar a todo el Golfo de México Golfo de América. Se le volvió a dar el decreto y se le volvió a decir cuáles son las normas internacionales. Entonces, si siguen insistiendo, nosotros también, pues ahí estamos pensando incluso una demanda.
Sheinbaum emphasized that the U.S. can only apply such a name change within its sovereign territory, 22 nautical miles from its coast. Sheinbaum warned that if Google maintains its stance, Mexico might pursue legal action. Worldwide News reports.
Ukrainian President Zelensky made it clear on Thursday that Ukraine would not accept any deals made between Moscow and Washington about its fate without Kyiv's involvement. Zelensky emphasized Europe's need to be part of any negotiations and voiced concerns over U.S. President Donald Trump's recent call with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Головне, щоб все не йшло по плану Путіна. Коли він хоче зробити все, щоб перемовини у нього були двосторонні, він зі Сполученими Штатами Америки, і ми просто не зможемо акцептувати, як незалежна країна, будь-які домовленості без нас.
In Kyiv, Ukrainians were concerned that Trump's direct talks with Putin could signal that Ukraine's interests were not a top priority for the U.S.
Спочатку Путіну, потім нашому президенту. Це бред, це маразм. Ми захищаємо зараз нашу країну і все должно рішатися непосредственно з головою нашою, в першу чергу. Тому що
However, some locals understood the necessity of Trump hearing both sides.
Треба розуміти, що Трамп – це президент Америки передусім. У нього є свої інтереси. Це інтереси Америки. Якщо в цих інтересах Америки Україна на першому місці, він буде телефонувати президенту Зеленському. Якщо Росія, він буде телефонувати Путіну. Але треба розуміти, що Трамп – це бізнесмен.
Meanwhile, Moscow residents expressed optimism after Putin's call with Trump, with talks reportedly focusing on the war in Ukraine, bilateral relations, and a potential future meeting.
Разговаривать всегда полезно, несмотря ни на самые дикие разногласия. К скорейшему разрешению вряд ли он приведет, но к этому идет. Он все рано или поздно конфликт закончится.
Worldwide News Report. At least 20 people were injured when a car drove into a crowd in Munich on February 13th, as the southern German city prepares for a top-level security conference, due to be attended by US Vice President J.D. Vance and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskiy.
Aber aktuell 20 Verletzte, zum Teil schwer, und wir können auch bei einigen Lebensgefahr nicht ausschließen.
Police said they had detained the driver and did not consider him to pose any further threat, but declined to comment on whether it was an accident.
Gegen 10:30 Uhr ist ein Fahrzeug in eine Personengruppe gefahren. Dabei gab es mehrere Verletzte. Wir sind mit einem starken Polizeiaufgebot im Einsatz. Neben uns ist auch Feuerwehr und Rettungsdienst im Einsatz. Die Person, die das Fahrzeug geführt hat, ist derzeit gesichert, sodass wir davon ausgehen, dass im Moment keine Gefahren für die Bevölkerung mehr bestehen.
The Munich Security Conference is to start on February 14th, and senior officials, including Vance and Zelenskiy, were arriving later, even though there are still obvious evidences. The possibility that extremists were behind it cannot be ruled out. Worldwide News reports. On Thursday, families of Israeli hostages blocked a main highway in Tel Aviv, fearing the collapse of a fragile ceasefire deal with Hamas. The deal, aimed at ending 15 months of fighting, had promised the release of all hostages, but Hamas suspended the handover, citing Israeli violations.
We are terrified. We are absolutely terrified. There is an agreement that President Trump endorsed. He endorsed it, and now everybody is leaving it or sabotaging it or torpedoing it. I don't know the right word, and we want everybody to calm down and complete this agreement as it was signed.
Israel has called up reservists and set a Saturday deadline for Hamas to release additional hostages. U.S. President Donald Trump warned that failure to meet the deadline would result in severe consequences, while the situation remains tense amidst growing regional anger over Trump's Gaza plans. Worldwide News Report. Nissan and Honda have formally announced on February 14th that they called off a plan to merge, after talks between the two Japanese automakers founded, and the key point is, Nissan doesn't want to be the subsidiary of Honda. The pair, which are also due to report quarterly earnings, have seen their industry and the key China market upended by the rapid rise of Chinese electric vehicle makers such as BYD, and both are facing the prospect of tariffs in the United States, another major market. Nissan, Japan's third-largest automaker, is pushing ahead with a restructuring plan announced in November that includes cutting 9,000 jobs and reducing global capacity by 20%. It has yet to disclose details such as which locations will be affected. Worldwide News reports.